Now, Elon Musk had a curious quote there. AI is our greatest existential threat. Then the next day, decides we're going to be making robots, make as many as we can, but make them cute. So because they're cute, does that mean the threat isn't there?
Welcome to the very first podcast of the AI India community. My name is Jagriti Jetpani and I will take you through today's session. For those of you who are new here, AI India is a community of 35,000 plus AI enthusiasts and machine learning practitioners. Our motto is to make AI resources and education easily accessible for everyone. Today's discussion, as you can see in the title, is based around the significance of ethics in the world of artificial intelligence. We have with us today Dr. Tamanna Khosla, Dr. Jason Marin, and Dr. Daniel Smith, who will tell us more about this field and answer some questions. Accessible to discussion is based around the significance of ethics in this world of artificial intelligence. We need ethical practices in the AI world for a safer tomorrow. AI systems must follow human qualities like transparency, accountability, individual rights, privacy, respect, and non-manipulation. On December 6, 4 community groups in Asia joined Mr. Andrew NG for a group discussion event on AI and ethics. Mr. Andrew started it with an interactive session and then divided everybody into groups. He asked them to come up with 3 actionable ethics statements based on the topic they were given, like transparency, fairness, privacy, and security. To go see the results for yourself. But everyone was blown away by how thoughtful and insightful all the 4 groups were throughout the event and how much depth they went into for suggesting the reforms. In the past, we have seen multiple occasions that highlighted the need for some solid principles to be laid down in the AI work. Just like when Amazon's recruitment AI was biased against women. The engineers building the program had used resumes from the last 10-year period, which were predominantly male. Now, when you go back to look at the historical data of the past and look at the successful candidates, you feed them to the algorithm. And with that data, the algorithm starts predicting and starts working. So if you look at the similarities and if you look at the past successful candidates, there were some common traits that they forgot to think about or they did not consider. It was that most of the successful candidates were male and white. This is why Amazon's AI algorithm was biased against women. There are so many such events that take place so often. So high. Like I said, and I would first like to introduce you to Dr. Tamanna Khosla, who has been actively doing some amazing work in this field. She is the director of the Pranja Initiative, something she's going to talk about very soon. And she's an author of leading political theory books and also has a PhD in politics from JNU. Ma'am, we're so thrilled to have you with us here today. And I'm so excited to ask you the questions we have planned.
Thank you so much, Jagriti.
Okay, so ma'am, are you ready? Can we begin?
Yes, of course. Most welcome.
Okay, so ma'am, why don't you just start off by introducing us to what exactly is ethical AI and why is it important today according to you?
Now, ethical AI is, before that, I would like to start with what is ethics. Ethics is basically morality, in principle, when we do the right thing and, for the right people and for the right reasons, it's called ethics. So now, earlier we had from Plato to Aristotle to Hegel to Marx, everybody has spoken about ethics. What ethics for the world should be, and what, for example, Marx talked about world revolution, how workers things should be ethical for workers. Now in the present century, we have because of the new technology, everything has positives and negatives. So while AI would have positives, a lot of positives, but it also has a lot of negatives. So what now people are thinking is that, because there are cases where, as Jagruti you were also talking about, like how in negative, women being neglected and all that, in these things. So the ethical part came into picture, where people realize that, AI needs to be ethical. How should we do that? So yeah, that's the whole thing.
Wow, thank you for explaining that so well. And the next question is, why is today's time correct for implementing ethics in the artificial intelligence industry? And since AI has been here for so long, why suddenly the need and has been arised?
Yeah. So Jagruti, the basic thing is that right now, while we see a lot of evil happening in the world, but we also, you have examples of, women being beaten in Afghanistan, or like many other countries, you have different kind of things, happening. But the fact is that we also have positives as far as why today, because like we also equally have spiritual revolutions happening. You'll see in every country, every place. For example, you just open the Google and you'll see some guru speaking on something ethical. So we also have this revolution happening alongside. So I guess this is the right time right now that we and that is what Prajna initiative is also all about. We want to talk to spiritual leaders of the world like Dalai Lama, His Holiness, and then we want to speak to Jaggi Vasudev, Shri Ravi Shankar ji, and many of the Christians called Christian saints, and we want that their perspective to come in and make it more ethical, so that people do not suffer because of new technology coming into being. So I
Wow,
guess that is why it's the most appropriate time for us to look into this.
we better start now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that was so nice. Now, Doctor, what would your recommendations be for someone who wants to build an AI system today, or someone who's just starting off and wants to do it ethically?
Okay. How should they do it?
Yeah, like now somebody's starting off. What would your recommendations to be to them, or what would you like to say to them since they're building a new system? How can they build ethically right from the beginning?
Yeah. So what they must do is, first of all, an organization should first of all only be based on these principles, certain principles. You know, it should not be based on, like for example, you have people who are like based on their for example, in America, you have the whole concept of affirmative action. So affirmative action means that, it's not like reservation in India. Affirmative action means that, you have, if suppose there is a white male and a black woman, but but both with same qualification, the black woman would get preference. You know, so it's not that they are not they are distinguishing on the basis of a woman gender or something. It's just that they are seeing that, we want to diversify, and we want that this particular aspect should come in our company. So women, blacks, Latinos, Mexicans would be given prominence in the recruitment. So similarly, in India, we need to have this policy in the corporate world as well as the government. In the government, for example, right now we do not have 33% reservation for women. So we need to have that in government. We need to have that in corporates. We need to have it that in NGOs. where Dalits, for example, are represented, in several ways. Obviously we do have reservations for them, but then in corporate world they are not represented because they can't speak English in the way they have to. So they are discriminated on those bases. So this particular aspect needs to be taken care of, and I guess everything would be done by them.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Could you
Yeah.
also tell us a little bit about what exactly is physics AI and a little more about the Pranja initiative?
Yeah. So physics, I'll just tell you that Prajna initiative is based on physics, and it's based on ethical practices, and we will give our lot of the money which we earn to IMP, and physics is basically, it's about, it's about Q vote, for example, that quality vote, which means that you it's not just yes or no, it's more than that. It's going to ask you question that, like, why are you saying yes or why are you saying no? So for example, I'll just tell you this particular aspect. um, it talks just not about yes or no, but also you come to know the repercussions of writing a yes or no. So it's not just as simple as things are not like that. So physics will devise through medium if the decision taken on any possible political, economic, or social issue is good, bad, or neutral. So we have envisaged two bars. One is the color bar, which looks at the rainbow colors, and red is the color which represents the bad part of the spectrum, and violet is the part which shows the best part of the spectrum. So, for example, this can be used as Prajna Initiative is wanting to join UN very soon. So, we will use this particular method to look at countries. So, for example, right now in Afghanistan, the situation is so bad, and Pakistan is so bad. It's going to be marked, or for example, China, it's not very good. So those countries would be marked red, and the countries, for example, like Finland or New Zealand, where women are right now ruling, they would be given violet. So like immediately the whole world will come to know that this country is discriminating against women, or minorities, for example, or this country is doing the best, and they have 4 5 female parliamentarians who are ruling, who is the home minister and all that. So immediately the world will come to know, and those countries would be in the picture. So so nobody can neglect our physics. They have to take care of this particular aspect. And 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 what is just a second. And yeah, so we have another scale, which is the gray scale. The gray scale has a different function. It is used to spot what the user think is true or false about any information, survey, etc. So this is another. So it's just about true and false. So you will immediately, the person would come to know that this particular issue is in the black, so it's right. In the gray, it's wrong. So like this is the whole thing about physics. Yeah.
Wow, I really like the initiative, ma'am.
Today, we also have with us Dr. Jason Marin, an astrophysicist at the American Museum of Natural History. His research focuses on computational modeling of astrophysical phenomena that are too complex for pen and paper theory. Now, Dr. Jason, what would you want to say about artificial intelligence and the importance of ethics in it?
Is anybody wondering, when will it happen that computers will become as fast as a brain? The plot is the progress at the speed of the world's fastest supercomputer. The answer is, right now, it has just happened that supercomputers have become as fast as the brain. Also, that blue point there, that's the supercomputer on your wrist, your iWatch, which is as fast as a supercomputer from 1995. You can have a supercomputer on your wrist, not as big as your brain, but you can be wirelessly attached to a supercomputer brain, which is somewhere else. How do supercomputers get fast? Page down to the next one. Supercomputers get fast by next down to the plot with the clock speed. The way that supercomputers get fast is they improve their clock speed. But around 1995, clock speed stopped advancing. It's a plot of clock speed. Engineers gave up on clock speed, and so they turned to parallelization. The total speed of a computer is its clock speed times its parallelization. And for the brain, we can draw similar analogs. A brain also has a clock, and a brain has a degree of parallelization. Now we can highlight the differences between a brain and a supercomputer. Not only are they programmed different, but the hardware is different. You need them both. You need the algorithmic style of classical computers, and you need the algorithmic style of AI. And you have to find a way to unify them. The differences between a brain and a supercomputer is that a supercomputer has a faster clock speed than a brain. Supercomputer wins. What's the clock speed of a brain? It's how much time it takes for a chemical synapse to fire, for a message to travel across the brain. Both of these times are similar. Also, the brain wins out over the supercomputer because the brain is more parallel. Way more parallel. The brain is way more parallel. But when you take the product of those two numbers, you get a similar value for the speed. Another difference between a brain and a supercomputer is that the supercomputer is bigger. You can carry around a brain on your shoulder, but you can't carry around a supercomputer because it's the size of a hockey rink. Also, the supercomputer uses more power, uses a megawatt of power to do what the brain does with just 20 watts. A brain is more electrically efficient than a supercomputer. That supercomputer costs $1 million a year to operate because of the electricity. So if you want a supercomputer brain by your side, you better be rich. But that will improve. In fact, that's what's improving about supercomputers is we're learning ways to get more done with the same power. So in the future, supercomputers will use less energy, as little as the brain. That's a decade old. Now let's scroll down to the philanthropy plot. Oh, that's the plot I was looking at that I was referring to before. When I say that clock speed increases, the red line is the overall speed of supercomputers. The green line is the improvement in clock speed. Once upon a time, clock speed improved, but then it stopped. And the purple and the cyan points, those are parallelizations. So you see that around the year 2000, we started to parallelize the supercomputer. That's the purple and the cyan. Let's go down to the next plot. That concludes what we're going to say about supercomputer. This is the brain side of various mammals and birds. Brain size is the vertical. And the horizontal coordinate is the size of the animal. Even if an animal is dumb, even if it doesn't need to do it intelligent, even a cow, it still needs a brain because it has to operate the muscles. That's why the bigger the organism, the bigger the brain tends to be. But also, gesture to the point where the human is, See how the human stands out. All the organisms that have the same mass as a human, those are on a vertical line. And among all those organisms, humans have the largest brain. Humans have the largest value for brain size over body size among all organisms. This is called encephalization. Humans are the most encephalized organisms. Now let's notice also that whales and elephants have bigger brains than we do. Is anybody aware of it? Let's page down to the next one with the philanthropy. Because it's a little bit farther down. There you go. We're trying to quantify morality. There is not going to exist a perfect quantification. But one of the things you should strive for in any quantification is to be specific. You're going to quantify specifically. And here we have a specific quantification of morality. It's not perfect. We understand that. But the way that it's defined here is that your wealth is on the vertical coordinate. And the amount of philanthropic gifts that you have given is on the horizontal coordinate. Where do you want to be on this plot? Does anybody recognize the names, by the way? There's a famous Indian philanthropist, I believe, on that plot somewhere. Can you find him? You want to be in the lower right-hand corner. That is the moral corner. And the immoral corner is in the upper left hand. Though that is the Scrooge corner. People who have it and don't give it away. Who's the most moral person on this plot? Not the one with the most wealth, but the one who gave the greatest fraction of his. There we go, Mr. Feeney. So I like to call this the Feeney. Let's scroll down to the next plot. Arrow theorem. Thank you. The colorful sliders that Supra has made enable the user to give detailed opinions that are both multi-dimensional. He can rank a lot of people at the same time, all on one beautiful, colorful screen. And he can also rank each person with fine detail anywhere on the rainbow spectrum. It's a rankings engine. It's a ranked choice engine. It's a little bit more than a ranked choice engine because a ranked choice engine is discrete. You rank the candidates according to rank number 1, number 2, 3, and 4. And that's what you need for election systems. But there are other situations where you want a continuous ranking system. The rainbow. And the rankings engine that Supra has created, this is the mathematical reason why we need it. Arrow's theorem is the mathematical reason. Arrow's theorem is a benchmark of political science theory. To paraphrase the theorem, there does not exist a perfect election system. One has to accept imperfections. And what is generally regarded as the best imperfect system is a ranked choice system. Devil take the hindmost style. Rank the choices, eliminate the rearmost candidate, re-rank, devil take the hindmost again until you're down to 1. Arrow's theorem says we need this. And now we have the graphic. You need resolution also. Scroll up 1 plot. until you get to the colors. The 12 colors. How much resolution does color give you? The human eye is worth about 12 elements of color resolution. I could plot 24 colors. I could plot all the colors in between those 12, but you wouldn't be able to distinguish them. You wouldn't be able to use them on a plot. Notice also the style that resolution is achieved. It's done by binary subdivision. You start with the primary colors, red, green, and blue. That's 3. And then you subdivide to 6 colors and take the colors in between red and green, that's yellow. And then you can further binary subdivide 12 colors. The color between yellow and red is orange. And that concludes everything that I wanted to say. Unless you'd like to talk about aliens. Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's do this because you can always cut it. See that plot there of the timeline of the universe? I kept it as simple as possible. The fact is, we are a young star. We were formed late. Most of the stars in the Milky Way galaxy were formed early. Most of the stars are older than ours. How long did it take between when the sun was formed? AI technology, it took 4.5 billion years. You can see it on the plot. And what if how long will it take an alien civilization to develop? Yeah. More or less. But you could suppose somebody did. And if they did, chances are they have a head start on us by billions of years. The timeline says so. Also, you could ask, could they get here? They're far away. And the answer is yes. They would be able to make a fusion drive, even weakened fusion drive, that can move at 1/10 the speed of light. And with this, they can cross the galaxy in 1 million years. If an alien civilization appeared with AI technology, then the first thing they might do is construct 1 million robot ships and go and visit all the stars in the galaxy. And 1 million years later, they'd be everywhere. Why aren't they here? Is anybody baffled by this? I am. Scroll down. Who knows what the aliens are thinking? Our best guesses are prime directive. Maybe there's a prime directive. About the only thing we can say for sure is that there is no such thing as a doomsday machine, which appeared in an episode of Star Trek. In that episode, there was mean aliens, and they created the doomsday machine and sent it out to destroy all life it found in the galaxy. If this had happened, we wouldn't be here. That's one of the few things we can say for sure about the aliens, that they didn't make a doomsday machine. In fact, they may be watching us. A hyper-intelligent AI alien broadcasting Game of Thrones to the galactic streaming network because they love it. And we would never know. And it's reasonable. It's reasonable to suppose that an alien civilization occurred somewhere else in the galaxy. And it's reasonable to suppose that they could be here. There's enough time. Thank you. Questions?
That was a really, really, really cool presentation. I'm still a little shocked about a couple of things that I saw on that screen, but I certainly have one question for you. So at least every day in our lives, we see so many colors around us. Even your presentation was filled with so many colors. But what drove you to incorporate them into your ranking system? Because I found that the most interesting part.
Colors that matched up.
Let me offer a mathematical
Yes, let's hear that.
there are three fundamentally different kinds of ratings that you can construct. For the domain could be 0 to 1, as in 1 has all the qualities, 0 has no quality. Or the rating could be from -1 to 1, where 0 is you have a neutral opinion about it, and 1 is you like it, and -1 is you hate it. And also, the domain could be potentially closed or open. For example, it could be from -1 to 1, or it could be from -infinity to infinity.
Right.
And so mathematically, focus on the fact that there are different domains, and you need different domains. There are things for which a 0 to 1 is appropriate, and things for which -1 to 1 is appropriate. And so just think domain, reduce it to the unit interval. 0 to 2 is the same as 0 to 1 as far as mathematicians are concerned.
Right. That's really interesting. Thanks for answering it. Today, we also have with us Dr. Daniel Smith, who has happily agreed to answer our questions as well. Dr. Dan has over 20 years of experience working as a systems and network engineer, and today he is the CEC at Physics. Although he will talk more about physics more into our conversation, but the simplest way for me to explain this to you is that it quantifies human emotional data based on a universal color scale, representing emotions almost everyone can understand in the language of color. Isn't that really interesting? I mean, for me it is. So Dr. Dan, I'm handing over to you to tell us a little more about the initiatives that you're a part of.
Okay, thank you. Call ourselves the Prajna Initiative, Prajna meaning wisdom. And what this is a way for computers to interpret our emotions in a unique way. In the history of recording thoughts and ideas, we've got K-BART from a long time ago. We've tried to formalize it into a system. And the I Ching is a way, and some of the numerology and horoscopes, those are all ideas to try to predict the future. Essentially, we want to know what decisions to make, what should we do, which way should we go, who should do what. These are all problems everyone has throughout history, and finding a way to make the best decisions is the most valuable thing we could have. Leibniz started on what he called characteristica universalis, trying to imagine instead of words, but figures and shapes to represent the ideas. Ben Goertzel, he's famous in the AI world here. He called it Uri physics. And this is just a couple of the diagrams, but what he was talking about was something that was representative of physics, of the world as we know it, and a reference point to that, so that a computer would have sort of a framework of thought, so it would know, make the associations that we make. Big tech, when in trying to figure out what we think, what we like, what we don't like, trying to codify what we like, our preferences, and they come up with a few ideas. Twitter is very basic. Do you love it or not? Thumbs up, thumbs down for YouTube. Amazon, lots of places use the 5-star rating. LinkedIn, they go a little bit further with different icons. Facebook has these standard ones. And what they're all getting at is just a way to find out what we think. Now, Elon Musk had a curious quote there: AI is our greatest existential threat. Then the next day, decides we're going to be making robots, make as many as we can, but make them cute. So because they're cute, does that mean the threat isn't there? So what we bring is physics, thoughtware. That's what we need to install in AI. And it's based on just the patterns of nature. And it's a graphical way to represent thought. Small, medium, large, using the pictures. Small, medium, large. And that's an idea. A better idea is a big idea, a medium idea, a small idea. Everything is in terms of differential. When it comes to organization, there's only 3 patterns it can be. Alone, with a differential. In a group, you have hierarchies, whether it's a single hierarchy with someone running the hierarchy, that would be the top of the hierarchy. A business, for example, with a CEO, a school, a classroom with a teacher, things like that. Then you have centralized, decentralized, where you have multiple centralized organizations working together. And then you have distributed, where they work together, communicate together, but none are dependent on any of the others. So from a single unit, person, place, or thing or idea, to multiple, where one is bigger or better than the other, or they're the same. And then you have the organizations. So these are the minimum characters, the minimum units that are possible. So some examples from the atomic level. For a hierarchy, you have a nucleus and the electrons. DNS, you have the root zone, and then everything forms from that. In the solar system, you get the sun in the middle. These all are just, this is an abstraction of these patterns here. When there's a differential, is the client, server, peer, and that's it. It can't be anything else. If you're in a network, you're one or the other, and that's it. The decentralized, you have something like the neurons, form patterns like that, flight paths, galaxies. These are all examples of a decentralized network. And distributed, for example, a gas, that is more of a random, but that's the symbol that would be used for those kinds of organizations. Blockchain, where the data is distributed amongst all, a shared database amongst all. Birds fly and something like that. So for an example, when you talk about the CEO of Amazon, well, he's the biggest one there. He's in charge. So he would be in this organization, in this position. So he would be the authority in the company of Amazon. In a classroom, blue being the teacher might be seen as working in a decentralized, meaning there are multiple teachers in the high school and they all work together and they each have different classes. So that would be the organization of the school itself. In the classroom, she would be the teacher and the kids are learning. So you could see the kid is small, trying to learn more, attempting to learn as much as the teacher. That's what this indicates here, is that the teacher is trying to get the student to learn as much as they can about that. So these are these patterns. This is the representative of how this language would be used. So any given picture would be mapped to these patterns. For the dolphins, they hang around together. From what I understand, they do have some hierarchy, but not as pronounced. And right down at the atomic level, we see those same patterns. Now, these are what we'd spend time with developing. Whoever we end up working with here on a permanent basis, we go through all these patterns, what they mean. They're fractal in nature. These are the life cycles. A pair of people can operate as the hierarchy. This could be two CEOs working together, or a family, parents with their children, something like that. These would be these different patterns. Fractal in nature. This could be two armies battling, a bigger army against a smaller army. It would be reduced to that same differential. So we finally have the answer. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Huh.
Just depends which one you pick. The shapes, the geometric shapes, represent the paradigms or domains of power there. You have mental, mind, what you think. And interesting, this is the only subjective part. The rest can be objectively measured. The voice, how loud was it? How long did they talk? What were the tones? All these things. Money, how much was spent? How much was lost? Those things are all objective. The body, that can be measured both objectively and subjectively. The body is how much energy was used, or subjectively, how does that feel? Does it hurt? Does it feel good? All those are subjective. But the rest of it is physics. How much energy was used? Which direction? Everything can be measured against entropy, except how you feel about it. And that's where we come in. The pentagon is chemical or mechanical energy. Nuclear is the hexagon. Interplanetary, when you get into space. Interstellar, between stars. Galactic, the next galaxy. And universal, well, that's all we know. There might be another universe. Can't prove it. So there's a subjective measure. Negative to positive, neutral in the middle, worst to best. So it includes every opinion, every experience can be measured with this metric. This is an example of a way to record it. No, yes, I don't know. Quantivote is what we call it. Let me hide this here. The problem normal voting is when it's close, you don't know exactly what's going on. Why do they say no? Why do they say yes? The amount of enthusiasm isn't there. How many people are right in the middle that just could have gone either way, but maybe they saw something that, oh yeah, maybe that sounds good to me. Maybe it doesn't. It's right on that edge of decisions are made, and there's no way of knowing how close it is to one way or the other using this system. It's just a very low resolution vote. And that's where we bring in the spectrum. That includes the I don't know vote, which means if you don't know the answer, then that means it wasn't explained properly. Not in a way that gives you an idea of what action to take, at least. And that's important information. So using this, the Quantivote is like this. No, I don't know, yes. That's the basics. As an example, we've got a shark, got a monkey, and we got a baby that'll eat anything. So sharks don't like bananas. Monkey is fine with a green banana. Baby loves all bananas. Shark still doesn't like this banana. Monkey likes it. Kid doesn't like it as much. Shark still hates it. Monkey doesn't like that one as much. Baby still eats it. So if you notice throughout this voting mechanism, the shark didn't find anything good to eat. So we fed the shark the baby and he loved it. So this is what these patterns generated are called Q slopes. So you end up with these distribution patterns of response. So this would be a very positive vote. Everyone loved it. Everyone liked it. Most people loved it. A couple of people, very positive. This would be something universally negative, with most people very negative. A couple of people, not so much. This would be something that's not controversial at all. It's something a couple of people like, a couple of people don't really like. But overall, this isn't a big deal right here. This wouldn't be seen as anything very important. Now, if you take a vote, you would have, depending on how many people answered, I don't know, it could go one way or the other here. So it could be an action. What happens in the future? If something is done, what happens to this group of people in the future after that decision is made? Did it move this way or did it move this way? What was the consequence of that vote? That can be measured now. You can see the tide of public opinion can be seen moving to the warmer or cooler colors. This example is something not very controversial, but someone is very much against it. What action should be taken there? What are the consequences? If it happens and these people don't want it to happen, what are the consequences? What will these people do if it happens? If it doesn't happen, what would happen to these people? They aren't that moved by it. So maybe what's the right vote here? Maybe that's the right vote. No. This is a potential where you could have a number of people here. The quantity says yes, but the minority says no, well, what do? What do those people that aren't happy with the decision? What happens to them? What's the next step? Some more examples, something broadly liked, some people not so much, some people love it. And here's something controversial. Few people in the middle, but most people either love it or hate it. What action should be taken when you have these kinds of, when you generate these kinds of patterns? What should be done? If it's something minor, like what do we have for dinner? That's not a big deal. But when you get to corporate policies or government policies, if you have this kind of a pattern, this is potentially a huge problem. If you have a number of people that are very much against it, if you can manage to make it happen because you can get people to agree to it, but half the people are virulently against it, you're asking for problems there. This would be something most people don't care about much, but you have a fanatic fan base and people who are largely against it here, or the love, hate, but most people don't care. So those are general patterns that you'll see, and it can't be anything else. There's only positive, negative, or neutral, and one will be higher than the other. The majority will be on one side or the other, or in the middle, and it can't be anything else. So it gives us a way to visualize the opinions of any number of people. One simple graphic, and you can understand it from a chimpanzee or a dolphin would understand this. This is something everybody likes, except these people that don't care. That could be seen as, when we get into ethics, this is something where this is your goal. If the majority likes something, these people, they don't have to like it, but if it doesn't bother them, then that could be seen as something ethical, something that everyone agrees is good, except the minority that don't care one way or the other. That would be basically your target, is get to the green zone. Anything on this side is better. Now, those are subjective emotions. When you come down to truth, what's true on the internet? That's a huge problem. There's no way to know when you see something, how do you know whether it's true or not? And that's sometimes really hard to tell. So what this introduces is the continuum of belief. 0 false, 1 true. Same patterns, false, true, I don't know. Those same patterns, this is something that everyone believes is almost definitely true. Most people believe, yes, it's true. False, not so sure. This could be seen as a gradation of credibility, what value of truth or falsity it has. Here's something nobody really knows. These people know it's false. Most people don't care. Here's a broad range. And here again, if you get into something that's controversial, this is common now. You have something that says, no, it's true, no, it's false. And it could be something important. How do you get past these situations? These are just the graphical representation of these feelings plus the credibility factor leave you with these patterns. So the happy medium, Zentropy, I call it. This is almost everything, the sum of human history. Everything that you don't know is in this. You don't know if it's good or bad. You don't know if it's true or false. Everything that's known or can be known. What percent of what is real exists in this pattern? Everything but what you know. It comes to ethics. Where do you draw the line? There's a site that actually uses a very similar system to what we propose. It's called mylife.com, and this is involuntary. I don't know how broad they are around the world, but in the United States, you can look up your name. They tell you right here, here's your reputation. There already exists a social credit score. Now, legally, that exists in the form of your credit score, your criminal record. Those things already exist in real formats right now. But as a unified format that everyone can take seriously and is functional. Is it voluntary or not? That's one of the most important parts of our system. Is it's completely voluntary. You don't need to use it at all. But if you want a system that works, this is it. The matrix. This is it. 5 by 5. In this simple, without a whole lot of granularity, you have neutral. So it's neutral, bad, worst, good, best. From the self to the other, who does it benefit or who does it hurt? Does it hurt you 100% and doesn't hurt anyone else? Or does it hurt someone else 100%? Does it benefit someone 100%? Or does it benefit you 100%? Or is it something in between? So using this 5 by 5, you have what you think, what you do. There's the simulation of human experience. Here's one on a continuum background. Same thing. This could be seen as something where this could be a mistake. I was thinking the best, trying to help, but I made a mistake and I broke something. This would be someone intending to hurt someone and actually doing it, both. This would be feeling good about helping someone else. Maybe an altruistic. So be feeling bad about helping someone else. This could be just sitting alone, not interacting with the world, alone in a neutral zone, maybe meditation. This would be by oneself, very happy. The analogy is Conway's Game of Life, which already exists. It's a 0-player game where there's a rule set for each cell. Depending on where it lies in relation to other cells, it'll either exist or die out. And you end up with these patterns. There are stable patterns. There are patterns that travel, that move across the board. Some are large, some are small, and this has been undocumented. So what we're looking for is to create sapient game. Same idea, except now it includes the dimension of good and bad, hurt, negative, positive, neutral. Each of these cells could be zoomed in, and each cell could be an experience of a life. These are the nominees for to be trained in sapient game. So this would be example. The triangle is speech. So thought, action, speech. This could be a dialogue between the AIs, could be represented in something like this, little QR codes of discussion or experience. It's universally applicable. In medicine, this could be someone's medical records. This would be someone with a lot of problems, and they get better, maybe a relapse, then they're okay, and then they end up, hey, I feel great. This would be a successful diagnosis and treatment to the point where the person feels great and they carry on. Same thing in school. Maybe they had a lot of problems at the beginning, get better, a little bit problems, okay, and then at the end they get excellent grades. Could be attitude. Sports, same thing. All these, every experience can be measured using the same metric. So you end up with this system that can be applied to basically every app, every activity in life can be graded now on a singular metric. So we're headed for Elon Musk with Neuralink. This is a perfect natural fit for him. The e-governance, another way to represent it, instead of those patterns, could be a single line with the number in each color represented by the length of the line. So you get these kind of like barcodes, but show the opinion of the population in a barcode kind of format. To narrow it down, once you have the opinion of the whole, how do you narrow it down to the individual? And one way to do it here is by who's affected. If we have a vote, should we give half our water to Mars? They don't have any. Well, the humans voting, that would be a black vote, and the Martian would be a white vote. And do I have the picture? That would be a representation of the human vote versus the Martian vote. Humans say, no, don't give half the water to Mars. Martians say yes. What's the right decision? The black vote would be the people who are affected by that decision. So on Earth, that would be very negative. Be great for the Martians, assuming they want the water. So you separate this by who's physically affected. And those are where you run into those issues, difficult issues, the ethical issues of women's rights. And if you're talking about urban-rural divides, or you're talking about different cultures who interact, well, who's affected when it comes down to women's issues? What's the difference between what women feel and what men feel about something? Something that affects men and something that affects women, who should have the say? And right now it's mixed in between, everyone votes on something that might affect only part of the population. And this is a way to separate that. And this could be done by geography, by culture, however you choose to measure it. This is the tool to do that. So what you see is simply a way to measure progress. Do things get better over time or worse over time? This would be the patterns that we'd want AI to find, is what generates these patterns here. What decisions made led to this? What decisions made led to this? Things getting worse. It's an Earth Odyssey. We're on our way. So what we're doing, we're introducing the Olympics, which is just the Olympics of thought. What are the best ideas? What are the patterns that generate, what are the ideas that generate these positive patterns? And at the peak of it, what we want is an internet where we can record this. You end up with a metric for quality of product. If you're a company, what kind of Q slopes do you generate? Do you generate something positive or something negative? And do you repair those problems? If someone has a problem with what you sold them, do you fix it? Do you send them a new one? All these things can be recorded, and you end up with these reputation scores for not only individuals, but corporations. So you have something for people to look at to judge whether they want to do business with that company or not. What's their track record? With a timestamp, you end up with this relative score of age to quality of interaction. And this is a way to put some control on corporations where they risk losing their timestamp if they don't take care of what they promised. Maybe instead of lawsuits, it would be a matter of using the same system. You could use this as a judge and jury. What do you believe that this company took care of this customer properly? They made a mistake. Did they fix the problem? And all these things can be recorded, and you can have a snapshot of the popular opinion of how a company acts. And a company can't control what other people think, but they can see it this way. The future here, this is using this system. This opens up all sorts of sci-fi opportunities. If anyone knows Westworld, in that series, they had a supercomputer. They kind of kept track of the disturbances in the world and what was going on. And now those are visualized. This could be seen as a lot of strife and problems here. Maybe this is something with a couple little problems. This would be seen as something very peaceful. Everyone's okay here, and maybe a little bit controversial here. So you have the tools now to develop this kind of a sci-fi machine. In a practical model, Zooms, we could take a vote right now. What do you think about this idea? You would see these patterns of dissent and consent. YouTube, you'd be able to highlight parts of the video. This is a really good part of the video. Good part. I didn't like this part. You could highlight these parts in, perhaps send a link to someone and it highlights, hey, watch these couple of minutes here. It might be a 10-hour video, but you will really like these 3 minutes here. Watch this, a way to highlight this. This is where AI comes in. It can see the distribution patterns of what is quality, what's the highest quality YouTube video. Now there's a metric, besides just how many people watched it, how many thumbs up. They have these metrics. 207,000 people liked it, 15,000 people didn't like it. Does that mean, what kind of video is that? Well, a little bit of both. Now you have higher granularity to it. Just for an example, different ways it can be distributed. These all say exactly the same thing in different formats. Condensed into a little person, in a circular format, something like this. There's the QR codes, the differentials, or in a linear format. So here's our history. Got our tools, then we got nuclear tools. At this point, we're headed for Mars. We've got something heading to the galaxy. This is how we organize ourselves. Right now, we have an internet where different countries, different groups, they all connect and can talk to each other. But there's problems with that. And we're all seeing it where we don't. It's hard to know what's credible information on the internet. What should we worry about? Is climate change the most dangerous thing? Is COVID? All these social problems. Part of the reason is we don't know what's true, and it's hard to know who's the right person to talk to. And if this expert agrees with me, I like it. If this expert doesn't, I don't. There's no reconciliation for those things. What we do with this system is we provide a target for truth, meaning using the grayscale, news companies will have a target for make things credible, make things that everyone believes. If you present it in a way that half the people don't believe it, well, it's not news, it's propaganda. Present the raw facts in a way that everyone can use a baseline of information. So we have something that nobody thinks is false. It can be used as a baseline for arguments when we discuss ideas. So here's our dial. We are here where we live in a very hierarchical structure. Some people are upset, some people are fine, some people are happy. We haven't taken it yet, but those distribution patterns, how are they? If we were to take a poll for the whole world, what would it look like? How many people are happy with the situation? How many people are in the middle? How many people are upset? We don't have that information yet. Proposition is, let's move towards this, where people work together. At least people are okay with it. The more, the happier, the better. But at least let's take care of the biggest problems in the world, the wars, the problems with the lack of water, electricity. Those problems now are easily solved physically. It's a matter of changing the mindset of how we operate. This is on a global scale. Now we have a metric to measure which direction are we moving in. So aliens, that would be our goal of, there's your utopian goal of everybody happy all the time, living in their happy hive. So that's a long way away. We don't need to worry about that. This is our target right now. Get to the green zone, get people so they're comfortable. GPT-3, thinking in binary, can't tie its own shoes. Get physics programmed, we've got infinite Nobel Prizes here. Well, that's it.
Wow, that was such a cool presentation. I personally got to learn so much out of it. Thank you so much for that. Moving on to the next segment that we had planned today are the questions for you. Let's get right to them. Segment that we had planned today, we've prepared a couple of questions that we would like to ask you. Let's get right to them. So I think so far we've understood and become aware of the importance of ethical AI and why we need it in today's society. Dr. Dan, I want to ask you, where is the best place to apply this today?
I think for maximum effect, probably the easiest part, you need a way to sort through information in general. So right now the biggest thing right now is COVID and Afghanistan, all these huge problems. And I don't pretend to have any of these any of these answers. It's just a tool to measure what do people think is the best course of action. So I see the most valuable one would be using it for news, information that people get. Well, how do they know what's true? And instead of vilifying one news organization, well, they make up stuff all the time. And part of the problem is that news, they make mistakes and omissions, and they might be intentional, maybe they aren't. But we need information that everyone can trust. And what that means is that means a business model needs to change for news. Instead of frightening or salacious news articles just with the intent to get the clicks, and because they got to stay in business. So part of their model is to make money, make something exciting that people will look at. But what's credible? Is this credible? Is this information that is threatening to me personally? All these questions are. That's the problem right now. Is the information that we have, it isn't vetted, it isn't qualified, and this provides a target. So news organizations, there might be a section of the news organization which only prints what can be objectively proven. So instead of getting into the storyline, maybe these are the facts right here. It happened at this time. These many people were involved, and here are their names. That would be the objective part. And the commentary, everyone has their own opinion on what they think about the news. But to me, I think that would be the most important part, is to generate a target for objective news. And then people using that as the base, then they can talk and have their own opinions. But have a target for what's objectively true, and then from there the stories are generated. So that to me, that's the most important, is get into the news cycle where we can have more credible news, more credible information.
Convinced. Thank you so much for answering that. Now, if you could give someone just starting off in this field some suggestions, what would you tell them? What can they do now before they begin developing?
The top of it is dead simple. Just the spectrum. Using that as a metric, you can integrate that with any interface that you have. You can integrate it with that. So if you're a programmer, throw it in whatever you're working on. We'll put this in there too. That'll work. Deeper underneath, as far as the characters, there's a whole language there to be learned. It's simple. I've got it posted on YouTube for the most part. To work personally with us there, we've got our think tank to support, but most of the information's out there. So if you want to get further into the language part of it, and this is where we haven't got a hold of Ben Goertzel yet, but he had it labeled Uri physics. So at one point I'd like to talk to him personally. But the easy part is the colors, deeper down is the language, and it could be seen as a metric system of thought. So eventually that'll be systematized.
To all of you out there who are just starting off or are interested in beginning, that answer was for you. Thank you so much for answering that. Moving on to the next question. We all know today everything comes at a cost. So could you please share with us what would the commercials look like in this industry?
Tough. That's a tough one to make because it affects so many things. The rating systems are replaced. There's every app, every school, every business is a new way for your business. It's an HR department. You can see the psychology, see the attitude of your company. How are your employees doing? How are your customers doing? It's all in a unified structure. So it's hard to give any kind of number on that. For the Netflix and YouTube, it changes YouTube's business model. Instead of just clicks, well, right now they have an unsustainable business model where they say anybody can upload anything all the time, except what they decide to take down for legal and whatever their philosophical reasons are or corporate reasons are. They remove content, or whatever's illegal is taken down too. But now there's a crowdsourced metric of quality. They could perhaps say you need this higher quality, or you pay a certain amount to host the videos that you want just between your friends and family that nobody else cares about. Maybe you'd pay a certain amount per year to cover those costs for the server fees. So that could be a model for YouTube to change. There's just too many applications. It's hard to put a number on it, but it's just so widespread. So because of that, what we're presenting this as is, let me see, let me bring up my,
Okay. Could you share with us, Dr. Dan?
this is our, this is a physics perpetual license and ideological money pump. This is where, because it's so widespread, there'll be so much money generated from it, so many applications. What we're doing is we're putting out with an ethical license of
This looks awesome.
10%. 10% of increased profits or efficiencies attributed to the use shall be collected by our think tank, and we'll spend that, all that money will be spent in public. The implicit intent to solve the most urgent problems facing humanity at the minimum cultural, economic, and ecological cost. So by our actions, what we're doing, that money will be spent in public, recording how it was spent and the repercussions over time. If you spend money in one spot and people are happy, but later on there are secondary consequences that you didn't foresee, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Now there are these records. You end up with this database of wisdom over time, according to geographic location, culture, financial implications. All these things now can be measured in a standardized format, and you have a way to make decisions. Every government would have this database of wisdom from all over the world to make better decisions. So everything in public, so there's no doubt of where the money's going. We have a track of how it was spent and who spent it and how much good it did. So that's the idea of the money. The money, there's too many applications to count for a single thing. So use it for the best possible means here.
Thanks for sharing that. Could you share with us what are the long-term possibilities of this evolving industry today? What are we looking at, say, a couple of years down the line?
Well, the way I see it now, you have this common language for both humans and machines. You end up with a common code of ethics for both humans and machines, the same code of ethics. Save energy, make people happy. That's your target. With the green zone being that's done. As far as humans are concerned, just get to the point where you aren't bothering other people. For governments, that's a big deal. You don't want to impose laws that you don't want the people. You don't want insurrection. You don't want riots in the street. You don't want those things. So try to develop policies. And for corporations, big problem nowadays is the disparity in wealth. You have people fabulously rich and people that don't have enough to get by the next day. And those are the problems. Those are always present in the world. But now we're aware of them, and when there's enough technology and enough money to be able to take care of these things, at least get to the point where people are better off and they aren't struggling as much. And we can watch this over time. And we all have a target we can watch. The UN could have a heat map of the world, just visible 24/7. We can watch what things changed in the last 6 months, which places got better, which places got worse, and what led to those conditions. So I see it as simply a way that we can everyone sees the same reality, a shared reality that we all can see, and we can see what makes it better, what makes it worse. Make decisions that way, and those can all be communicated instantaneously around the world. These tools all exist now in a unified format that we can work together past the cultural and language and national boundaries. Now we all have something to share and watch.
This is the last question. How many Nobel Prizes do you think this will generate?
Well, all of them, right? Once you get an AI that can reason like a human, can understand cause and effect and repercussions to the emotions of the humans, why would you have a person making those decisions when it can't make the same associations that a omniscient AI that now is wise? So that's kind of a trick question, right? It'll be interesting to see how this rolls out. So we'll see about that. We don't know. just right now we're still under the radar here. We've got all the preparation ready. We're starting to contact governments and schools with this. So anyone that's looking to work with us, we do have a little bit of overhead fees, and the money hasn't started flowing yet. But please contact us at info@projectinitiative.org. That's our contact information if you'd like to work with us directly. And that's all. Thank you.
Much everybody for answering our questions and sharing with us this important knowledge about this industry and making us understand why ethical artificial intelligence is very important today and telling us how to go about it as well. And thank you to, I'll record it once more. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the viewers who watched this. We really hope it could add some value to your life. In case you like this video, make sure you share it with some of your AI enthusiastic friends and make sure they know about the ethical side of artificial intelligence. See you guys around. Bye.